Okay, we're on live here with. Oh, good. Everything's working. That's good. Okay, perfect. We're on live. We're looking for a efficient car that's Toyota Yaris or Corolla, something that's low cost of ownership. So that's the objective here is to find something that's going to be cheap to maintain, cheap payments, cheap insurance, you name it. That's what we're going for here. Let me go ahead and get the proper stuff up here. Corolla hatchback. There's a Yaris. Okay, Yaris IA. Great. Let's get this down to hatchbacks here. So there's 60,000 of them for sale, 4,200 hatchbacks for sale. Out of that, we have 1,700 hatchbacks that are for sale. Corolla hatchbacks and Yaris hatchbacks. Lots of different price points here. Let's take a look and see what we can find for cheap. There's this one in Vermont that still have it right here. This one, 2007 base with the four-door hatch on this one. Is it a four-door? I can't see the side profile on here, but that's two-door. Yeah, oh, not yet. Here's this. Here we go. Now we're up. All right, we got to get some more bandwidth here. So I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi here. Here it goes. So you can see right here, 30,000 miles, 7 grand. So you're out, we could probably go out, get out the door, $7,000 or one like this. Little two-door, 50 miles on the gallon for gas, low mileage, 250 to 300,000 miles with the life on this car. So really kind of hard to screw it up. 1.5 liter inline four cylinder. One of the things I like about it, take a look at the VIN number. It starts with a J. What does that mean? That means that the car was manufactured and assembled in Japan. So you know they did it right there. So that's a nice part about this car. It's one that was built for the American market, but it was built in Japan. Okay, so now we go up two more listings here. We got a couple more here. So we got a couple of options here to go under 10 grand for a car with under 30,000 miles. A reliable car for under 30,000 miles, by the way. Well, here's another two-door shot right here on this one. You can see that Toyota's going to put their VVT I engine in these. So, these are some of the best motors that you can get your hands on. You see, you look inside, it's not going to be the most options that you can find, but that's the idea of cheap transportation is in order to be able to keep the payments and billing low and insurance low. The more stuff you have on there, the more stuff is likely to break. This stuff is going to be equipped. It's going to be equipped with cruise control and everything like that, automatic transmission. So you can still get to where you want to get comfortably, but you're just going to do it a lot cheaper. The gas is cheaper, the insurance is cheaper, tires are cheaper, brake jobs are cheaper. So that's the thing about a car like this. It's going to save you a bundle. And when you go with Toyota over Nissan or some of the other brands that sell tiny cars, these are going to be superior cars overall. And that's what reflects. Now we can go ahead and jump it up as far as we can go one with a little more miles on it. Doesn't hurt you at all on this particular car here. This car you can have a little bit of miles on it. It's fine. Here's one for $5,000. It's got 75,000 miles on it. This one's in Massachusetts. Let's go up the ladder here. Okay, so you can see we're kind of getting into the sweet spot of these cars and where they're available here. The sweet spot is on these Yaris is right around, the 7-8 grand for one with under 60,000, 75,000 miles on it. A lot of these are going to be in the over 100,000 to 90 to over 100,000 mile range for the same price. So you can see here we have them all day with 113,000, 107,000, 81,000. This one, but then when we go here, we're looking at a 20. Here's one with 30,000 miles on it for the same price. So, you don't have to buy one with a lot of miles on it. You just have to look really hard for one with less miles on it. But these are going to be the sweet spot. We got 54 listings right here. Well, all these vehicles right here are going to be excellent running and long-lasting vehicles. Really can't go wrong with them. Here's one. Here's the one with the new tech. If you want one with new tech, this one is going to be ready for you. This is a 4-door right here too, so a little easier to kind of get people in and out of this one. Nice part about this particular one is it's new enough. If you want to do Uber or whatever, you could on this one, or Lyft. You can. It's new enough to where you can do that. It's only got 117, which isn't many on a car like this. So if you want to get one that's 10 years newer, it's going to have more miles on it, but still nothing to really worry about as far as mileage goes on one like this. You can see they're still selling for $5,000, and the six grand, it's got 200,000 miles on it still. So very easy. There's one a 19 with for $15,000 with 200K on it. It just tells you how long these cars last. Let's see what happens when we creep up here and go up a little bit higher on the price. Let's see if we can look at one. Say you want to finance one of these. You don't want to pay. You take your 5 grand and finance, and 6 grand and finance one of these cars. This is ultimately what you're going to be doing. You're going to be getting into one for low anywhere between $10,000 and $13,000, but you are getting a newer one. I'm seeing 19s, 18s, 15s on here. This is going to come with a lot newer tech. So that's kind of what you're paying for. You're still getting one with low miles on it, but you are getting one with a new tech. Let me get this thing queued up here. And all right. And just to show you here on our example, we have a 2019 here. This looks like a nice one. It's a 2019 with 33K on it for $13,000. Okay, let's see. It's a nice hatchback SE package on it. But what you're getting with this one, you'll notice right off the bat. Okay, so when we type in on here, we're going to see. Take a look at, you got the touch screen with you got the steering wheel controls. So this is going to be a lot more advanced setup right here. So you could take this one here is 13,000. So you can take the one that you were going to buy cash with, this one for $7,000 that you're going to pay cash with, and instead of taking your $7,000 and instead of taking your $7,000 and buying a car cash, you could get a lot newer one. You can get one that has all the newest tech on it and everything on there that you're going to need to be able to kind of car more modern. You can always put tech into the older car. You can put a touch screen in it, put a backup camera on it if you really wanted to, without any hesitations. But the 7 grand, or you can get into a newer one, and I'll show you how you can do that. So let's just go ahead and round this up to, let's say 12.5, okay? So this is how cheap your payment, well, how cheap would my payment be? We're just saying 500 in dealer fees, just to be safe. Okay, so typically we're going to do a 72-month loan. Say we did a 6-year loan on it. All right. We did a 6-year loan oh wait, that's not right. We want to do, say we're doing a rate of 7% interest rate. We're going to do a 72 months. Okay, so if we had good credit, we just bought the car, we sign and drive for it, we're looking at just over $200. Now, this is a 33,000 mile Toyota Yaris. So, I mean, for a vehicle that you can drive for a long time, it's going to barring you don't get into any accidents with it, you do the basic maintenance to it, you're going to be able to drive that car well after the loan is done. It will go longer than 6 years. And we've proven that by looking at some of the ones with more miles on it. Now, let's say we take our 7 grand that we were going to put towards the one that we bought. Watch what happens to the payment. We can do a 72-month loan, and we got a $100 payment right there, $100 a month. So that'd be very easy to pay this off. You know, your total interest would be about 1,500 bucks, but again, you're only financing 6 grand. So super cheap payment. That's how we get you into a car that is very, very affordable and very inexpensive, and one that, again, it's not just about the car that's affordable. You got to also consider the gas, maintenance, and insurance on there, not just the payment. So the other ones that we were looking at before, oh, Brad, what about that Cadillac that we saw online for 8 grand? Well, that's a great deal on one up front, right? Cash up front, pay 8 grand. You got a Cadillac with 60,000 miles on it. You think you did great, right? Well, the problem with that is that when you take it to the Cadillac dealership for them to work on it, it's going to cost you a fortune. It's a lot cheaper to work on this Yaris. That's why for first time buyers, they won't sell you a Cadillac unless they do a high interest loan. Well, Brad, what if my credit isn't very good? What if my credit's bad? This is still the car to buy. If you're going to spend 7 grand on a older car and pay cash for it, think about it. Find one of these Yarises. We'll find one in the 17, 18, or 19, a newer one, maybe even a 2020. Get it for right around. Get it right for right around um, 12.5 and put our 7 grand down. Even if our credit sucks, you put $7,000 on a $12,000 car, the bank is going to think that you're going to make the payments, right? The bank doesn't have, it's not nearly as bad for the bank. So let's just say you put 7 grand down on a 12.5 car. Brad, my credit sucks. It doesn't matter at that point because you're buying a car that doesn't break down, number one. And number two, the bank wins no matter what. So if the bank has to come and take your car, you've already paid $7,000 towards it, and they're going to be able to sell that car at auction or just they're going to be able to sell it for more than what you owe on the car. Right? Makes 100% sense that you would want to really be able to get the most out of that. And here we'll pull that back up again. This one here is a 2019, 34,000 miles on it. It really gets you a stellar deal with new tech. You're paying $100 a month. And even if you were to have a high interest rate, let's just say we've raised that rate up to 15%. Just say we raise that up to 15%, you'll see what happens. The payment would go from 108 to 131. Still very affordable, right? That's if we bumped it up. Now, let's say that your credit is bad. Not your credit goes from not good to bad. Then we go to like a 25, 22, 24% interest rate, which is what the kind of close to what the max rate is. Watch what happens to your payment. You're still at 160. So very, very manageable, right? It's a payment under $200 on a modern car, one that does, you make the car payment, you put gas in it, you do the routine maintenance, brakes, tires, and oil changes and stuff like that. You're doing all that stuff. You're going to get the longevity out of this car. It's going to be a great vehicle for even a family. Like it could be a great car if you have 2 kids. You can still travel forward to a group in this one here. So great, great option here. And this is the kind of way that I recommend buying a car in this circumstance. I typically don't recommend buying a $7,000 car and paying 7 grand cash. If you have reported income, we can definitely make it to where you are. What are you looking for, pal? Okay. Well, you can definitely make it to where you get a low payment no matter what your interest rate is. So remember that too, and remember that once we buy this car, watch what it, and this is what happens. Let's say you don't have the best credit. Okay, let's say that your credit is whack. You know you're going to get a 20% rate, but you got 7 grand to put down, buy a car cash. Put the money down on a cheap car like this, and then what you're going to do is I'll show you how you do this. So I can pull up the payment schedule here, and it breaks down what a high interest loan does as far as when you're making your payments. Let's go ahead and show you that next. Back to this one. Okay, so we're back onto this screen here, schedule. All right, you can see right here, I'm going to pull it up so we can take a closer look. Payment number one, $40 on a 24% interest rate, which is what you get on a high interest loan. You can see that you're having mostly principal. You're paying $40 in principal and $127 in interest. So most of the money that you're spending on this particular payment is actually going towards interest payments. And you can see that for a long time, you're paying mostly interest on this. Here's payment 24, still more interest than principal that you're paying on this. Well, you say, hey, Brad, how do I get out of this loan, right? Well, a couple things you can do, right? You're not paying, you can drive the car for a year and trade it in or refinance it for a lower rate. You've already put enough money down so you can make the payment on it. After 12 months, you can refinance the balance. It should be about $5,000 or $6,000. You can get them to cut the rate in half or maybe even into a fourth if you've been making the payments on time. And guess what? Your next car is going to be cake. But I see a lot of clients fall into that trap. They qualify for a high interest loan. That's the only way they can buy a car. You're going to have money down. So I tell people, don't throw away $4,000 or $5,000. Don't buy a car that has over 100,000 miles on it and isn't a Toyota or a Honda. Do not do that. Whatever you do, because that's what's going to happen is you're going to be paying mostly interest on your payments, and the car is not going to last. That's why we want to make sure we're not getting into cars that we can't afford. Don't buy an old SUV that's piled on with miles, like an 05 or 06, Explorer or Grand Cherokee or anything like that, because the maintenance of it's going to cost more. The payment's going to be about the same, but the maintenance is going to be a lot more. The gas is going to be more. The insurance is going to be more. And when it comes time to trade out of that car, the value, there's not going to be any value on it, right? It's going to suck. So you get into these traps, right? So this is why a Yaris, Corolla, these are the best cars for first-time buyers because, for one, they're reliable. For two, you get your money back when you sell the car. So it's a great way to rebuild credit. Don't worry about buying the coolest car that the dealership will sell you, right? Find the one that's like this and buy it and put a lot of money down so the banks will say yes, even if you don't have good credit. You just got to have money down. That's the trick. That's how you get a low payment. But watch what happens. I'm just going to show you here too. Let's bring that rate down to a prime rate. This is why good credit matters. So not only does it matter when you're, watch what happens to the payment. Okay, now we're down to 105. So we lose, $60 in your payment. And watch what happens when we look at the schedule. Now out of that $105 payment, look at what we're doing. We're paying $73 on to the principal, and interest is still high on the first payment, but the principal is more than double the interest. That's the difference, guys. That's the difference. So after 12 months, you owe considerably less. You're paying more off on the vehicle too. So those are things that are really important to consider when you're a first-time buyer or buying an inexpensive car like this. It is the best way to buy it. And, obviously the best way to outrun interest is to make bigger payments. So instead of paying $105 a month, you're going to pay like $150 a month. Every dollar you spend over your payment goes directly to the principal on your car payment. So that's the name of the game. But I mean, we found some good ones. There's some good Yaris's. We can get an old one. We can pay cash for it and be out the door. We can get a new one, newer one, and put money down and pay the rest over. However long it takes you to pay off $5,000 or $6,000, and then your car with new tech, newer tech, I should say, reliable. Now, one that's where you're not going to get waxed, even if you have to pay a high interest rate. At least you know that the car is going to run, and that is really, really reassuring. When most of the time, when you buy a high interest loan, do a high interest loan on the car, they stick you in something that's not reliable, and you're stuck. So I say, if your credit score is under let's say 620, um, then just count on having an interest rate higher than 15%. Now, not all 580s and 620s are created equal. Sometimes they can qualify for lower rates. I've seen it, but just count on there being a higher interest rate, and count on needing money down. The other thing I would also express is that when you're buying a car as a first time buyer, the banks are not going to loan you 100% of the value of the car. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's go ahead and get into that discussion just briefly here. So let me pull this back up here. So we're going to share this. Okay, so this is a Corolla hatchback SE. Let's see what this is. Uh, a $13,000 car, and I had a $23,000 price tag on it. So it had a high price tag, right? Now that is sold, but let's just now that even though it's sold, let's just take a look and see. That's obviously somebody was smart and bought that car, right? So let's take a closer look here and just see. Let's look up JD Power, and let's look up the value. JD Power. Oh gosh, gotta get this thing caught up now. JD Power. So what I do here is I'm going to pull up a site that kind of gives us an idea of what the banks value the vehicles at. So we're going to start by looking up. Oops, no, we're looking. We're not doing. Okay, so we're going to choose this. We're going to get in here, and we're going to find the right one here. We're going to go with Toyota. Okay, we're looking for 2019. First time buyers, credit score, usually between 600 and 680. It's usually what I see for most first time buyers. Credit's a little tougher for this generation. There's no question. Okay, so we've got a Corolla hatchback here. We're going to select this. SE package. Okay, and we're going to just look it up in our market here. We're in North Carolina, right on the coast here. So 28411 is the zip code. Let's take a look here. So we're at 33,000 miles on this one here. Let's look at the value. So we're just going to price it with standard equipment. I mean, any additional equipment, and there's not going to be a whole lot of difference on these. They're kind of on the more basic side of the car. So right now, right off the bat, for the mileage that it has on it, you can see the average person pays $20,000 for this car. 80% pays 19 to 21. So most people are paying between 19 and 21,000 for this. So 20 grand. So that's kind of what the value is on this car. That's what the bank says this car is worth. So right now they're selling one at trade value, trade in value. This one here, as long as it is not a the one that we just looked up, as long as it's not a salvage title, this is one that we can get financed because they'll only finance 80 to 85% of this 20,000. So this car is worth 20,000 according to the banks. They're only going to finance 16 of it. So they would look at the value on this one and pull it up, and barring that this one did not have any, was not a wrecked one, which based on the price, I think it is. Um, Knowing that this is got a $20,000 sticker, I'm looking for ones that are 16 under $16,000. That's what I'm looking for. So $16,000 with this kind of mileage is going to be the sweet spot, and then I should be able to get somebody in the 600s done with very little money down, maybe $1,000, maybe because again, this is going to fall into that category of where the banks are going to loan you 80% to value. That's how I'm able to find low costs on a car. That's how I'm able to find people that have not the best credit but decent credit. I'm able to get them into cars that are newer, not a lot of money down. Most of the time, dealerships are going to charge closer to this for those. Let's see. Let's go up here to where we're in the $20,000 range. This is about where they're supposed to be, right? Here we are back at that sweet spot. Here is a 2019, same vehicle, hatchback, SE, just a little bit different color, right? This is about a 20 grand car. That's what the bank says this car is worth. Okay. That being said, if we wanted to buy this car and you were a 620 or 650 credit score, the banks may say that they'll only loan you 80 to 85% of the value of this thing. So they're only going to loan you 16 to 17 grand, which means you got to come up with couple $1,000, right? That's just the way it goes. But yeah, that just gives you a synopsis. So that's what my goal is. See, every client's different. Not all my clients are going to have credit that's over 700 where you qualify for prime interest rates. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, they're creeping up. Let's see what ones we can find cheaper. Can we find one here? A couple of Yaris's. And these Yaris and Corollas, these are the ones that the banks want to see you try to finance as a first time buyer. They love it when somebody comes across with, oh, you're trying to buy this one on time. Sure, okay. This one's worth, say, say we're priced at value, and say we can get it for 12 grand instead of 12.5. We negotiate a little bit off. We're still going to need to have like 15 or 1600 bucks down, which is doable, right? Even a young person, that's consistently working can come up with a few $1,000s to put down on a car. See, look, this Yaris here, fully full tech. This one, it's not going to have a whole lot of options on it, but it has enough, right? Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It's going to have cruise control. Very simple, but very simple and basic, but very cheap ownership. This one here, watch what happens when we plug these numbers in on the number. Say that we're 600 and we have $1,500 down. That should be enough with the 650 credit score to get that Yaris done. Let me go ahead and get back to my screen here. And okay, so we have 12.5, 0 here. Pop in 1,500 down. And let's just say we're not going to qualify for for the lowest rates as a news time buyer typically, right? But we're not 24% rate, right? We're looking closer to anywhere between 7 and 11% typically. It's still one that you can finance and get, but remember, we're not financing as much money. So let's see what that does here. Okay, so with prime credit, with prime credit and 1,500 down, we're at $200 a month. Now watch what happens when we hike this rate up. Let's go up to 11%. We're still at a 226 payment, right? So I mean that's very, very manageable for somebody that's working consistently, and again the insurance got to consider and all that. But watch what happens when we put money down. Okay, so instead of paying $1,500 down, let's say that we can cough up, say, 4,000. Watch what happens to our payment on a 72-month loan. Boom, we're all the way down to 178. So that's kind of the trick to these here. Now, at 11%, and depending on how much money you make, but at 11%, it's going to give you a reasonable rate for a new first-time buyer, and be able to get you into under $200 a month with a little bit with more money down or a little less money down, just over $200. So these are the things to consider here. And I just wanted to point this out too. Let's go back down to our low. You still are going to be paying more on your, okay, so here's the payment schedule here. So even though we're paying 11% on this and we're not putting a lot of money down, we're financing a lot of it, we're still paying more on the principal. Obviously, if you can pay $300, that's $75 is going to go on to the principal and bring this down. So it's all simple interest. That's how we outrun this interest rate. And if you do that consistently, let's say you consistently paid $300 a month for 12 payments, you could trade out of this car and get a lower rate or refinance this one at a lower rate. But you're already paying this car off fast enough to where you're going to pay it off in far less than the 72-month or 6-year term. And you're going to avoid a lot less interest charge by doing that. So this is what banks want to see. They don't want to see you. They don't want to see cars that are coming across like Mercedes on first-time buyers or BMWs. Like people are coming all the time. Young kids, they think they could come in because this car is $10,000. My bank says I can borrow. I've been working for a couple of years. My bank says I can borrow $12,000. And here's a $12,000 BMW. Well, the problem with that BMW is that it's older than 10 years old, so the banks don't really want to touch it, especially on a first-time buyer, because you're going to be fixing the car, and you can't afford to fix it. You're going to have to put insurance on the car, which is more expensive. And it's just less likely to be driving throughout the term. When the cost of ownership is more expensive, they're less likely to work with you on that. This is why it's so important to go with something basic, and you don't have to stay in it. You stay in the car. Stay in the car for a year, 15 months, 16 months, right? Stay in the car for that long, and then trade out of it. Get what you want. Get closer to what you want. But remember, the payment that you get, it should be considerably lower than the payment you afford. If you can afford $300 a month for your car payment, like according to your budget or whatever, then get a $225 payment so you can pay it off faster. Or if you have a $300 payment, if it's on a 3 or 4 year term, it's not bad. But the problem is that you'll have that $300 or $400 payment over 60 or 72 or even 84 months, which really puts you in a lot bigger pickle, than what you're thinking. And this is what gets people in trouble. So this is why I try to push all my first time buyers, and they're usually happy with the car. Like every time a first time buyer insists on having this one girl that came in and she wanted this Jeep Commander with a 5.7 liter. It was nice. It had 65,000 miles on it. Show you what it looked like here. It was a Jeep Commander, nice looking, right? Obviously, she wanted an SUV. We can't afford, to fix an SUV like this if you're a first time buyer most of the time. So this is what I'm trying to explain to her. We drive it. She won't really listen to reason, right? And what ended up happening is, we could have got her done on something that was newer, like an Equinox or something like that. She could have driven it for a year, right? Instead, she was trying to buy this Commander that was 10 years old, and granted, the miles were reasonable on it, but this vehicle is completely out of warranty. She's financing it, making a $200 payment. Next thing you know, the car doesn't work anymore. Oh, what's up, dude? You got Honda or Toyota. I mean, we tried. I mean, we tried talking to her into it. Yeah, I mean that's a very similar car to the Toyota Matrix, the Pontiac Vibe. But yeah, either any of those, any car would have been better than the one that she wanted, right? And you just couldn't talk her into it, right? And it turned into a situation where we couldn't even get her done on the Commander. She couldn't buy it. We said, here, why don't you buy this Toyota Yaris? It's going to be a better car. This is why banks want to finance you on this car, because you can't. We see their income, right? We see what they make, and the bank sees what they make. So, if granted, they could have at the time it had 80,000 miles on it, one like this black one, 80K on it. We were asking like 12 or 13,000 for it. She only had like 15 or $1,200 to put $1,200 to put down. And we're just explaining to her, like, look, the bank knows that you can't afford to fix this car if it breaks, right? That's why they're trying to push you towards getting into a Yaris or a Corolla or Camry, not a Jeep. But you can't explain that to people. They know more than we do, and they just have to have it now. If she would have done it right and just like paid off and paid it consistently on a cheap car that was very reliable and dependable, first of all, she probably would have seen how cheap it was and just stayed in it, and staying in something with, 50 miles a gallon or 40 or 50 miles a gallon in gas compared to going into something that's like 14 makes a huge difference. Yeah, the Vibe. Yeah, the Vibe is the good one. That's one of the only good, like, long, because Toyota built the powertrain for it. That's why. Here is one with, see, I mean, one 2009 with 92 on it right here. They're still bringing in about 12 grand. And they look nice. I'll show you what it looks like here. Yeah, we had a Pontiac Vibe for a while. It was nice. We got that new in 2006, and we drove it for 9, 10 years probably. No, it was a great car. Sick about it. But anyway, this one here, what we had vehicles that they would finance her on, and this is what I tell people about financing a car. I've heard this before from somebody else, a guy named Dan, and he said he basically compared car buying to a funnel. When you're buying a vehicle, if you have credit that's under 600, credit is 600. Hang on, okay. If the credit is under 600, so you got 200 cars in the lot, right? Let's just say we have 200 cars in the lot. If your credit is under 600, the funnel is real low. There's probably two or three cars in the lot the bank will approve you on with the right money down. Now, as we get up there, we get to 600. There's a few more cars that you can get now with the right money down. Now, all of a sudden, instead of being like two or three cars, four cars out of 200 that you can get approved for, now we're seeing you can get like maybe 20 cars at about 600. Once you get to about 650, probably about half the cars with the right amount of money. There's a lot of cars you can buy. The right money down, you could probably buy a lot of them on the lot. Then once you hit about 700, 690, 700, that's when the funnel, we go from down here, under 600, two, three cars, 620 to 25 cars you can get approved on, right money down. Right money down at 650. Now we're seeing the funnel get bigger. And then once you get to about 700, 710, now we can buy pretty much anything on the lot if we have the income to be able to support that. You've proven you can make your payments at that point. So this is what I describe to people. And how do I get to 700? One of the best ways to get to 700 is to close out an installment loan on a vehicle that you already had, that you currently have, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like drive this little Yaris. Instead of spending 12 grand on this, buy this Yaris. Buy this right here. For one, we're going to be able to finance it longer. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be cheaper to insure. It's going to be cheaper to put gas in. And the bank knows this. That's why they try to steer people in this direction. Drive this car for a year or two. Watch what happens. Watch you get most of your $12,000 back. You drive this car for a year, put 25,000 miles on it, drive it everywhere, and then trade it in. You're still going to get a lot of your money back on this car. This is why the banks want to finance these cars. They do not want to do on first-time buyers. They do not want to do Commanders and Grand Cherokees and that kind of stuff. So this is kind of like a little vehicle here to show you what it means to be a first-time buyer and how you're going to get the best possible deal on a vehicle. So yeah, this one here, I would definitely recommend not overextending yourself on your first car. This is the perfect car if you're only approved for high interest. Say you credit deprived, you want to repair your credit, buy the right car. If you need a car, you need to finance it, buy a Toyota, buy a Honda. Do yourself a favor, because even though there are other reliable cars out there, a lot of them, they don't have the resale value. So it's not easy to drive a Buick for a year and get your money back like it is for a Toyota or a Chevy or even a Ford, especially Ford, right? They make good cars. Don't make no mistake about it. You can get a really nice Fiesta hatchback, but the difference is that it's going to depreciate, and it's going to be hard for you to get your money back. Where on this one, you're not going to be stuck with a bunch of negative equity, and that's what the goal is for any first-time buyer, is to buy an efficient car that doesn't have a lot of negative equity when you try to trade it in. And this Yaris does it. That Commander does not do it. So this is exactly what, like a lot of people, kind of get overzealous. What they don't realize is that the vehicle that you're in, it's temporary. You're not going to be in the same car your whole life. And granted, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You're out there doing it on your own. I get it. You're 21, 22. You need a car. You want what you want. You're only going to be young once, right? But you're going to be in your 20s for 10 years, right? So if you do it right, you can buy a Yaris or a Corolla, drive it for 8 months to a year, and trade it in and get more of what you want, right? Get more of what you want. The bank, instead of trying to offer you a loan at 80% of the value of the car or 85% of value of the car, they're going to give you 100% of value, which makes it so much easier to buy a car, even with no money down. So these are the things to just kind of keep in mind, and this is just so important. Parents who are buying their kids cars, the They buy their kids cash cars. And here's the problem with that in some cases is that you buy the kid the cash car, they wreck it, you're out the money, right? Not saying they can't wreck a finance car, but at least you have full coverage insurance on it all the time. If the car gets wrecked, you'll get on a Yaris or on a Corolla, you're going to get the loan paid for. That's the nice part. Would that happen on a Commander? No, no, absolutely not. You wreck that car, you say you got full coverage on it, they might, whatever the value is on the car, according to the bank value, whatever the bank would loan on that car, which is probably about half of $12,000. That's what the insurance company is going to give you. Then you got to come up with the rest of the loan. It's not a safe bet for parents. You say, Brad, are these cars safe? I've got a daughter. I don't want to drive anything in any car that's unsafe. Anything like this is going to be perfectly safe for your kids to drive. As a matter of fact, I would argue that it's safer to drive because it's small. They can't go too fast in this car. They can still go fast enough, but it's not going to accelerate like crazy. It's a great car to learn how to drive. Easy to park. One where you're not going to get a bunch of calls. Your kids in college, you're not going to get a bunch of calls home saying, "Hey, my car's broken. I need this and that for my Toyota." It never happens because they don't break. Now, if you get your kid, like old Chevy or old Dodge, or like an old Dodge Dart or an old, something like that's comparable to this Yaris, it's going to be just a matter of time before you start getting these phone calls. Oh, needs hoses, needs new radiator, needs new timing belt, this timing chain, timing belt, this kind of stuff, right? This is not the issue with these cars, and it shows in the depreciation of this car. They don't go down. So this is why I steer parents into this direction. If you want your kids to have the freedom and you want to have more freedom for yourself, in other words, you don't want a bunch of calls coming home saying, "I need my car fixed." This is the way to go. Curtain airbags, full airbags around, great safety ratings too. So if you get hit in the car, you're going to be okay more than likely, right? So that's the thing. I definitely push these cars on there. And the other point I'd like to make is that first time buyers and first time drivers, not just first time buyers, but first time drivers have high car insurance rates. So if you want to save yourself money on car insurance, you've got to do it on a car like this. It's not going to be the one that's going to get broken into. It's not going to be the one that's you're going to get a lot of speeding tickets in. Even if you speed a little bit, it doesn't. They're not the ones that It's not like the red Firebird or the car that they want to pull over for speeding. It's inconspicuous. It doesn't get you a lot of attention. And one thing about this little two-door version of this car is, guess what? You can pile four people in here, but it's not the first choice. So, on a long trip to spring break in Florida, if they take this car, you're going with one, maybe two people, because they might put one person in the back seat, but you're not driving 4 or 5 deep to Florida in a Toyota Yaris. Most people are not. So these are the things to consider. This is the ultimate first time buyer car because banks will love it, because banks will finance the entire value of the car with very little money down, very reliable, very cheap to fix when it does need to be fixed, great gas mileage, great crash rating, and also good car to learn how to drive because it doesn't accelerate too fast. It's not slow, but you're not going to be winning quarter miles in it either at the same time. So these are the ones that give you the least amount of headaches as for parents of first time buyers. And if your parents aren't buying it for you, your parents will rest assured know that you're in a modern car that you purchased on your own, a modern car with all the modern tech and amenities, including curtain airbags, passenger airbags, driver airbags, backup camera, touchscreen, the stuff that you think that you would want on a car, plus all the stuff your parents will be glad that you have on a car. Makes you look a lot more responsible. And then when it comes to trade it in, you're not going to have negative equity. Like on a similar car like this, let's say you went with a Versa Note. Let's look that up next. So I'm going to look up. This is the competitor to this Yaris right here. I'll show you. Let's look up a 2018 Nissan Versa Note, which is another nice little car. Don't get me wrong; it's not bad, but they don't hold their value like the Yaris, right? So these are going to go down. Let's see if we can find a Versa Note. Here we go. What's the newest one? Here, we're going to look at 18s, and there are 73 of these to look at. So let's look at one kind of in the same mileage range here. Okay, so here is the Versa Note right here. So a little hatchback through Nissan. 12 grand, 40,000 miles on it. Looks like it's a nice car, right? This thing looks like it's a nice little car, and it is. The problem with it is, though, these aren't going to go 300,000 miles like the Toyota, right? So the more miles you put on this, the more it's going to depreciate. So nice tech on it, backup camera, very satisfactory. I wouldn't hesitate to put a kid of mine in my kid in this car. They're going to be in a good situation with this one. That being said, though, when it comes time to trade this one in, they're not going to be getting the same kind of return on that. They're going to be, instead of getting back 10 grand or 9 grand, you get back 5 or 6 grand, which means you'll be stuck with negative equity. And that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for a vehicle that is not going to have any negative equity when you turn it in, even if you're making not making bigger payments on it. And this car does not do that. That's the only thing that makes the Toyota better, is that it's more reliable and more reliable over longer distances. Therefore, they hold their value better. So, that's the thing. I mean, that's why when you're looking at these cars, some are better than others. And that's why the Toyota is really kind of the creme de la creme. The Yaris is going to be supreme over the Versa Note. Great cars, but again, good gas mileage, cheap ownership. Other than the fact that you could owe $7,000 or $8,000 on this after a year, and it's only worth $5,000 trade in. Then you got 2 grand of negative to carry over. You're not going to have that problem with the Yaris. You won't. So that's another thing to consider. I see people coming in all the time. A lot of my clients have negative equity in their cars, and let me tell you, it's not fun. It's not fun getting out from underneath it. But anyway, that gives us just a little bit of a brief look here. Hopefully, this kind of explains why I'm trying to push this client into the Yaris or Corolla, the reasons why I'm trying to keep them out of things like SUVs and things of that nature, which you just can't afford yet, right? Like the bank knows it. They look at your income. If you're not making enough money, they know that they're not going to put you in a car that you can't afford. The first thing, that's one thing we ask. We ask you, how much money do you make? That's what a dealership will ask you. So your gross income. Okay, well, I make $15. Well, let's say you make $12 an hour and you work 30 hours a week and you go to college, right? So you make 360 a week times 50. That's like we'll just say round up to 20,000 a year. Then you guys your loan and everything coming on. Do you think the bank is going to loan you money on a car where the vehicle ownership is more than a couple hundred, 150, a couple $100 a month? No, of course not. Of course not. They're not going to, because they know that you need to be able to make that payment. That's exactly why they try to get you into these more efficient cars that are cheap to own. And then also they're going to hold a lot of these, like this Yaris, are going to hold their value. They're going to hold their value. They're available in 4 doors. You can get a 2 door. I like the 2 door idea because, again, that just cuts, like, especially on a brand new driver, a 16-year-old, let's face it, anytime I hear about a guy getting his driver's license, I want to not be on the road that day, because I just know But they are not usually prepared to be driving, and a lot of times they're driving cars they have no business driving. This one here is a safe car that's cheap to own, and one with a two door. You don't have to worry about it being the first choice for everybody to go pile in and drive. You know your kid is going to drive to their to and from by themselves, maybe with one friend, maybe two friends in the passenger seat, but you don't have to worry about them being in like in Chevy, your parents' old Chevy Traverse or something like that that has third row seating. Now you got six teenagers in a car together, and that's when it can become dangerous. So perfect car for a new driver right here. Perfect car. Right. Anyway, call me with any questions. Reach me. You got my number, 269 Um, Reach out, hit me up. Oh, they're having a President's Day sale. You see, like that's another thing. So another thing, I'm starting to get a lot of calls from dealerships that I've done business with in the past, trying to drum up business because February is a tough month. The new 2026s, are usually become available at the end of 2025, but we don't see any substantial rebates on them until the following year or until March. So March is when the rebates and incentives come out. So we're not at March yet. So now dealerships are scrambling, trying to get whatever they can get in February. And then March comes. That's one of the busier months in the car business. So, and that's because you start to see the offers on television for cash off and that sort of thing. So I'm starting to get them. I'm getting them from the Ford dealerships, Toyota dealerships. They're calling me, hey, look at these great deals. If you're buying a new car and you want the best rebates and incentives that are available, usually January and February are your worst months for rebates and incentives. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes you can steal one in January, February, a new one, like if it's a previous year, and say they're offering more rebates on a 2025. Now that 2026 is here, we got to blow out our 2025. Sometimes you can get that, but for the most part, new cars, you know, if you're not picky, and you could go between a few different models. By the time September and October roll around, November, usually you're going to see uh, vehicles that haven't sold are going to have good rebates and incentives, and we're still going to be able to get a significant number off that MSRP. So like I can usually negotiate. My average is, gosh, I mean, if I had to make an average now, it's way probably like 13 or 14% off MSRP is my average right now, plus rebates and incentives. So I mean that could be a real advantage. A lot of times, salesmen, when you go in and look at a new car, they'll say, "Oh, I'm looking at one with I need a discount on this car," and then the salesman will say, "Well, the discounts show up in rebates and incentives." And those are done through the manufacturer. You get those no matter what. So, and how that works is that those rebates get refunded to the dealership for selling the car, right? So it's just something the dealership doesn't pay for. So the dealership still has room on their car that they can sell their car cheaper. Let's say we want an F-150. Okay, this is a good example. Just an easy one to find. And let's say that we want an XLT. It's kind of their mid-level trim, right? We want new. So let's take a look at our listings here. Let me see if I can change this. Okay, so yeah, I'm just changing this in. On a new vehicle. So let's just see how we get the best price on a new vehicle. All right, so back to this here. So let's take a look. We are in this zone here, and let's just look up one of these. One of these F-150 XLTs. This one right at the beginning. This nice red one with black wheels. Looks cool. Let's take a look. You got a nice crew cab here, and they're asking 55,895 on their website. Okay, at Planet Ford. They're one of the planets in the solar system now. This Ford dealership. Here's the guy pointing at you like, "Hey, we're going to get you the best deal possible." I wouldn't trust that guy in the Blazer either. Don't worry, you're not alone. Look, okay, so look, I mean, nice setup on here, nice, uh, nice console here with nice big screen on it. Rear view, it looks like it has maybe a rear view camera. I don't know, I can't see. But anyway, they're asking 55,000 for this vehicle. Now, right now, they probably don't have too many rebates and incentives on these. Um, they don't have too many rebates and incentives on them, but starting next month, they're gonna start saying, "Oh, cash offers or buy this truck for and get Ford will give you $3,000 off F-150 in March." And like, hurry today to your Ford dealership and get 3,000 off. Okay, well that's great. We want more money off, right? But what dealers will say is that that's where you get your discount. That's where you get your discount. So instead of getting money off this 56,000 price tag, we're going to give you $3,000 off this MSRP right here. But then the dealership keeps all their invoice and all their holdback and all their advertising. There's more there. So whenever we see a $3,000 deduction on that, I can still call them and get an additional $5,000 or $6,000 off. We could get 9,000. If they offer 3,000 in rebates off a truck, we can usually get to 12% off this price. So that's another $6,000, right? $7,000 off. We're talking, getting this truck for 45 or $46,000 instead of paying the MSRP and getting $3,000 off. Those are the games. They'll sit down and they'll say, "Oh man, well you get your rebates and incentives. That's the discount." Well, this is why I do all my negotiations over the phone. Okay. When you test drive this truck, you don't go in there and look at the numbers. You say, "I'm going to go look at the Silverado or the Sierra and the Tundra," even if, even if, um, uh, even if you know that you're going to buy an F-150. That's how you get out of the store. You don't want to be sitting in front of a salesman to make your deal. If you like your salesman, call them and give them a chance to close a deal. But this is how you do it. You figure out, "Hey, I love this truck. I like how it drives. I figured it out." And we figure exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for this exact red F-150. This is what you want. Let's take a look and see what we would do then. We want this red color F-150. What I'll do then is I will go into my filters. We're going into the XLT. So we're there. And we're looking for the red colored one. 2,000. About 2,000 of those in stock. And we're looking for crew cabs. We're looking for crew cabs. I don't know whether that was a 5-liter V8 or what it was. We're going to check here. Okay, that's a 2.7-liter EcoBoost. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that 2.7. 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine, and we're looking for 4-wheel drive, of course. So that kind of narrows us down a little bit. We got about 530 of these here. So let's look. We're going to see all different price points here. Oh my gosh, here's ones for 71,000. I don't know why they want that much, but it's about a $55,000 vehicle, right? So then what I do is I find the ones that have the same window sticker on them, and I start calling those dealerships. I start saying, hey, I've been shopping around. I love this truck. I want this F-150 and this exact color. This is what I want. I've driven it. I love it. I'm just trying to find the best deal on one. They're not going to sit down. I know I get $3,000 off the MSRP. I know that's through the factory. How much better can you do? And then they'll say, well, what are you trying to be at? Trying to be about 11%. Between if you can make it happen with 10 or 11%. Now all of a sudden we're getting like $8,000 off the MSRP of this truck. I mean, that's like 100. That's like on a 60-month loan. That's close to $200 a month in payment right there, right? So that's how we can kind of keep this payment down a little bit on something like this. But that's exactly what you do. So I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to call the Crapole Ford in Mount Pleasant. Then I'm going to call them. I'm going to get numbers from them. Then I'm going to call this one in Dearborn. Right here. Here's one in Dearborn I'm going to call on. Same thing. Same. We just want to get the biggest discount we possibly can off the MSRP. And it's usually right around 10% off MSRP. 11, 12%. I've been getting 12 or 13%, but anybody that does this can get 10% off MSRP off one of these. I mean, if you can't, then you're not calling enough dealerships. So yeah, and that's not including the rebates. Now in January and February, there's no rebates. That's why they're not selling any of them. So we've trained people to wait till the last of the month to buy their cars and not buy cars in January or February unless they absolutely have to, because that's what we've done. We've trained people to do that in the industry. So here we go. Here's one in Bentonville, Arkansas. This is a 2025. This is a newer one. So this is one right here. Brad, what do I do on these? Same concept, right? I mean, same concept. You're buying the same vehicle. This one has 1,000 miles on it, which means it's a demo driver, right? So we should get 13% off this one all day, right? We always say you want 13% off. But this is where you got to be careful. Because this is if you have a vehicle you're trying to trade in. On one like this, where I'm able to get them down, say 13% on, and get them under $50,000 for this thing, including rebates and everything, they're going to try to make their money back and get more money on your trade-in. So that's when you have to kind of like not tell them that you got to trade, but you're not going to give them the information until you get the information on theirs. Or, you say, hey, if you've already shopped the trade, you know what you want for it. Shop it. Never shop it if they have one that's like a 2026 with no miles on it, have them send you numbers with your trade on that one first. So that way they don't try to screw you over on your trade when they sell you that one. That way that trade number is locked in on the 2026. And then you'll say, oh, by the way, get me the 2025 that I just noticed that you had a 2025. That looks great. It's only got 1,000 miles on it. I can live with that. Oh, okay. You're going to give me 13% off this one. I get a couple more rebates. Oh, good. And I still get my trade-in value on it. So I'm not getting screwed over by them on the trade. And when I mean screwed over, I mean like $1,000 or a couple $1,000. But those add up. When you get $2,000 more for your trade by selling it somewhere else, and you get $8,000 off your truck instead of $3,000. I mean, you're saving, $7,000 to $8,000. It's just It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Perfect. Well, like I say, first-time buyers, car financing, buying new cars. The reason that buying cars in January and February isn't the greatest. It's not because of tax season. That's part of it, but the bigger part of it is tax money comes out in February, which helps on used cars a little bit, but more or less, new cars don't move as much just because the rebates come out in March. So keep your eyes peeled. If you're buying a new car and you want the max rebates, buy one in like September or in October, and there still should be some left over, so they're not picked over by then, and you're going to get the maximum number on the rebates and incentives. And then you're still going to get 10, 12, 13% off the MSRP if you call dealerships. You don't go in there and call them. Don't go in there and sit in front of them. Call them on the phone. Well, anyway, that wraps up our stream for now. We'll see you in the next stream.